Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with the Impact Review for the 8th of December 2020. And I'm hoping the alliance with AEW leads to AEW eventually buying Impact and using it as a feeder system, but keeping other people in power, and then doing the same eventually with Ring of Honor and other indies, creating like a Pro Wrestling USA thing to finally put WWE, I don't want to say out of business, but on notice that they have to start treating their product like it actually matters rather than being bloated toads with huge contracts, lots of talent, but no real ambition. Anyway, this is one of the better Impact shows in a while. And from what I've heard, they got a bunch of viewers that they never had. And Final Resolution takes place on Saturday, so maybe there will be some AEW talent on it. Who knows? They show a recap package of the AEW Dynamite World Title main event from last week, where Kenny Omega and Don Callis align. Show opens with Callis and Omega's bus arriving at the Impact venue, which Josh Matthews says he will interview them later. Matthews is better than any announcer they have on Raw and better than Excalibur, so hopefully this angle could also lead to Josh Matthews potentially becoming a third man on Dynamite, at least for some things, or maybe on pay-per-views, depending on how far the angle goes. Chris Sabin with Alex Shelley defeats Josh Alexander with Ethan Page. Alexander's perfectly fine, but he never caught on with me. I guess I came late to the party with them. Alex Shelley made his return a couple weeks ago, and Sabin and Shelley have set their sights on the tag team titles. They took revenge on Triple XL and the North. On the other side of the ring, North have been on a bit of a losing slump for a while since losing the titles to Anderson and Gallows. Clash of Styles match, power versus speed. Alexander dominates the first half of the match. Sabin manages to escape on Alexander. Alexander regains control, gets distracted by his own tag partner, and then Sabin gets taken out of action, and Sabin ends up recovering, gets a roll up, and Alexander for the win. I mean, they could have started with a better match. They could have started with something that had a little more buzz to it, but at the same time, I think people know enough about who Sabin and Shelley are that maybe you were hoping to get something there. So, I mean, it's there. The North will eventually probably get a title rematch somewhere down the road. Josh Matthews and Madison Rayne run down tonight's card. They talk about the interview with Kenny Omega and Don Callis, and pretty big deal. Chris Bay approached Moose about the main event tonight, and they are teaming against Rich Swann and Willie Mack. Swan I love, Mac I don't get. Anyway, Moose completely ignores this and ignores Bay in the process, tells him that they're who they're taking on Saturday if Bay manages to win the Impact World title. We see a paid ad from AEW a la like an old NWA run-in or an NWO deal. AEW President Tony Khan and Tony Schiavone promote Dynamite. They're promoting Dynamite for this Wednesday. There was a promo about Khan talking about how he's not going to reprimand Omega for what he's done. He said he could go after him for breach of contract. Instead, he bought some time from Impact's representatives, and he is going to invite Don Callis and does to tomorrow's Dynamite, where he'll accommodate him, and Omega. Khan even dropped an interesting rumor that he may buy Impact Wrestling. There's a line in here where Khan asks Tony Schiavone if he's ever worked for Impact before, and Tony says, yeah, he did so once and then quit the business for 18 years. I thought that was hilarious. Anyway, Brian Myers against TJP. Match comes from TJP laying down a challenge to Myers last week, and it was a good match. They got a good bit of time, actually. Match is basically telling the story of Myers being arrogant. He dominates with power. TJP turns things around using speed and more of a wrestling style, and the rest of the match is back and forth, with TJP chasing the splash and Brian Myers hitting moves but not really following up enough to get victories. Finish sees TJP land with the Mamba Splash, only to get it reversed into a pin for a near fall, followed by a lariat with a win for Myers. Myers winning makes sense if you have more eyeballs on the product. I think more people remember who Myers is than remember who TJP is, unless they watch the Cruiserweight Classic from like 4 or 5 years ago. So it makes more sense. Backstage, Cody Deaner told Cousin Jake that they were going to go there alone. Cousin Jake tells him he'd be there to counter Joe Doring. Cody Deaner told him not to get involved, no matter what happened. I don't like the Deaners, so this to me is a waste of television time. The gimmick is so 80s trite and unnecessary that I just don't. Why bother is my basic mindset with this particular gimmick. Anyway, so they move to, as my notes decide to temporarily close, and as we go down, again, they're hyping Omega almost from the beginning, as well they should. Raju sees TJP backstage, makes fun of him for losing. Raju says final resolution. He'll be having his final defeat in the Defeat Rohit Challenge. He says it's open to anyone but TJP. Raju left, but not before TJP wishes him luck. Don't know where this is going, and honestly don't really care. Eric Young with Joe Doring defeats Cody Deaner with Cousin Jake. How far Young has fallen in the last little while. Eric Young and Doring have been attacking random people, and this is finally catching up. Match saw Cody Deaner start strong, but he gets cut off, and he goes shoulder first into the post. Young turns things around, works over the shoulder for a while. Deaner makes a strong comeback. He almost hit top rope headbutt on Young, but he distanced himself, and Doring and Cousin Jake giving Young time he got distracted by those two, giving Young time a chance to get up and hit a pile driver, and he picks up the win. So, for what it is, I guess it's fine, but I don't see anything in Deaner, and he wouldn't be on my roster. After the match, Rhino comes in for the save, and Doring and EY take out both the Deaners with pile drivers. Rhino versus Doring match is basically set at some point. Tommy Dreamer confronts Larry D about the whole Johnny Bravo shooting. Larry D challenged Dreamer to a match at Final Resolution. If he wins, he gets off scot-free, but if he loses, he goes to prison. This storyline is horrible. Dreamer approaches Scott D'Amore, who told him he hated wrestlers making matches. Dreamer wants to talk about Kenny Omega and Don Callis because he knew these situations tend to go in the wrong way, and it also sends bad messages to the locker room. D'Amore is happy about having Omega and Callis there. I guess they're going to do the interpromotional rivalry thing from the beginning. Anyway, and then we go to Taya and Rosemary defeats Deonna Purrazzo, Kimberly in Knockouts Tag Team Championship Tournament first round match. This is the last of the first round matches in the Knockouts Tag Team Championship Tournament. The winners of the match go on to face Kiera Hogan and Tasha Steelz in the semifinals. Not a bad match by any stretch. All four women work hard. Purrazzo and Lee cut off Taya early, but Rosemary comes in to make the tag. Everything goes nuts after that. All four women in the ring. Finish sees Purrazzo kick Lee and giving Rosemary a chance to spear Purrazzo. Taya takes Purrazzo out of the ring, leaving Lee for Rosemary to pin. Semifinals are set. Taya and Rosemary facing Kiera Hogan, Tasha Steelz, and Jordynne Grace and Jazz taking on Havoc and Nevaeh. I assume Grace and Jazz end up your champions, but that's just a hunch. Tenille Dashwood and Caleb with a K approach Alicia Edwards about making their outfits. Edwards says she has bigger problems to deal with and basically gets into it with Dashwood. Said she needs to focus on her husband. Dashwood is insulted, and Alicia didn't have time for her and told her she would teach her a lesson. The storyline's going nowhere quickly. Purrazzo and Lee complained to D'Amore that they were being forced to deal with a zombie, and in the tag tournament, D'Amore told her she now has to defend the title against Rosemary at Final Resolution. Match will be fine. Sami Callihan cuts a promo in ring about being the best since day one. He said he's what Impact needed. Callihan says they need him more than he needs them. And they replayed the footage of when he takes out the eye of Edwards, saying that meant a lot of ratings. And he said he did it again 2 weeks ago. Alicia Edwards comes out. Callihan tells her not even to think about getting involved because he said he'd break her neck if she got in the ring. Eddie Edwards snuck in on Callihan and they get into a brawl. And Callihan goes running with the bat in hand. And Alicia told him he needed to deal with her problem now, and so she's likely getting Dashwood and Caleb with a K versus Eddie and Alicia Edwards as a match soon. Moose and Chris Bay defeat Rich Swann and Willie Mack. This is fine. Moose and Bay are making a strong case for the fact that they want to both challenge for the championship. I don't know that either one doing so will mean a hill of beans, but that's okay. And then basically the match is relatively innocuous. It kills time. So Omega, as I jump ahead to Omega because that's what everyone's here for, Omega basically comes out and says he broke his gentleman's agreement with Moxley because his mentor in Don Callis was in danger. He also says he's had the best matches in the world, in Japan, in AEW, in Mexico, and everywhere else. Basically, they're teasing the idea of an interpromotional war. Rich Swann also is distracted when leaving the building because the real champ is in a position of authority. And that is that. We close the program. I think there's a lot of things they can do well with this, but I also think that fans need to wait and see because Invasion storylines normally don't go well in wrestling. The only ones I've ever seen done really well are interpromotional stuff in Tennessee, like the CWA and ICW stuff from the 80s, and things like Smoky Mountain USWA in the 90s. Other than that, on a national level, they've never really done well, so worth it to take a wait and see approach. We'll be back with more right after this.